I'm Barbara Mušić, coming from the Urban Planning Institute of the Republic of Slovenia. We are the Task 1 leader devoted to the analysis and instrument. And today's first training will be devoted mainly to this task, but also other tasks will be addressed. First, Serin from Urbasofia will present the AGORA areas and thematic clusters with best cases, which we upgraded. So now, Serin, I will give you a word or a floor for the first presentation.
Okay, thank you, Barbara. A virtual floor, I guess, or room. Hello, everyone. We are Urbasofia, task leader T3, and the presentation that I'm going to make is focused on the AGORA areas and thematic clusters. This presentation has the aim to show you which areas are we interested in and what are the spaces and how they look and how the future projects that you will get involved in might look. So you have here AGORA partners. A short reminder of the work package cooperation framework. So here you can see again how the 4 work packages on content work together. We are now in the work package D1 analysis and instruments. Urban regeneration is the focus thematic of AGORA project, as we all know. The definition of urban regeneration is constantly evolving, and we agreed on a term of urban regeneration among all the work package leaders as a comprehensive and integrated vision and action, which seeks to resolve, so you have to think of the problems that you have, to resolve and bring a long-lasting improvement in the economic, physical, social, and environmental condition of an area. Regarding AGORA cities, we look at inner city restoration, appreciation of all the new perspectives, and we add also the technological aspects to the socioeconomic, environmental, and cultural and physical. We look for bottom-up initiatives, private partnerships, and also to bring public participation with local bespoke solutions, but also to bring a common policy of urban regeneration for the Danube region. Regarding AGORA areas, we look at the land and build-up structures in decline. This can be underused and unused. What is land and built-up structure in decline? It's a place that it's losing its physical and functional attractiveness for potential users and whose usefulness is increasingly reduced. So from the functional aspect, they can be underused and unused. From the physical aspect, underused areas can be in good or bad or poor physical form, and unused areas can be also in a good physical form or in a very bad physical form, and they are derelict in this way. We see how AGORA project, or the aim of all of us, is to turn this curve and to turn the underused and unused areas in your city in well-used ones. For the underused areas, we provided you some examples. So you could see how underused car parks can be transformed into residential buildings, how underused streets can be potential for improving public space, for example. What is an underused land building is a land and building which is not permanently used by its owner, but also occupants of that space, and it's in bad physical condition. Regarding the unused land or building, you have here another 2 examples. One is from Berlin. It's a wasteland that turned into a garden, and an unused office block transformed into a luxury apartment. An unused land building which is not used by the owner or occupant for any purpose. And regarding the physical condition of the spaces, I will talk only about the derelict, so you could see in which state. The derelict land and building is neither occupied or used for a longer period and is deteriorating from a physical condition, which requires usually extensive renovation. We see here an abandoned building that became then residential, and here an abandoned land which became a potential for a new public space with events and a new green space. So here you can see the whole logic around the Agora areas. How are they going to be identified and defined? You have more information in the guidelines provided by Barbara. The areas are the spaces in your city that you look at and you identify, and the thematic clusters are the more broader chapters in which you will make, together with us, with our support, the urban regeneration agenda for your city. So the policy level that will go also at the level of Danube region. We have 3 thematic clusters that we redefined together with the other work package leaders. So first one is large-scale post-industrial areas, unused and underused areas. That now that we know that what are unused and underused areas, we would like you to focus here mainly on buildings, and unused and underused areas as public spaces potential, which we saw a lot of you want to engage in, but maybe after this presentation, you will see also the potentials of the other approaches. For the definition of the thematic cluster, the agreed definition, so large-scale post-industrial areas focus on industrial buildings, or it can be a complex of more buildings. This takes into consideration the physical remains of manufacturing, mining sites, power and transport infrastructure like docklands, ports, etc., and former military complexes. Here it's to be noted that usually there are high level of soil pollution, or there are different methods to reintegrate them into the productive chain, and it could be difficult in the further process. I just wanted to show you how we all together analyzed this thematic cluster in defining it. So you will find there the scale, the historic background to see what are you looking for in your city. Very important here is the main target, which is also in the application form, the recovery and economic valorization of large-scale post-industrial heritage. This is the future aim, but we will come with that in the later phases of the project. So I will go with the first example now, MANUFAKTURA from Poland. MANUFAKTURA, it's a former cotton production factory. It's 27 hectares, so you can imagine the scale of this example. And it also became a housing for the workers in that period. And now it's a very good example of a transformative approach of urban regeneration. It was reinvented as a shopping center, but also offering cultural public spaces and entertainment for both locals and tourists. It's a private initiative, and you could see more pictures here. The next example that we choose is EXROTAPRINT. It's a very good example for bottom-up initiatives. It's from Berlin. It's a former site of a printing press manufacturing plant who was part of a privatization process where city of Berlin wanted to get rid of the unused pockets in his land, and it turned out to be a model for urban development that established an open environment for all community groups. That's because the tenants that were using the building actually managed to buy it from the municipality. It's a very good example of cooperative ownership model, and it became a cooperative ownership model for many other privatization policies in Berlin. It has mix of uses of work, art, and community. There is also an NGO that makes sure that the place will not be used for further real estate speculation. It will remain a place for the community. And from PACKHAUS, we go more south now. It's a former textile factory. Very deeply rooted in the history. It is a very interesting example of the transformative approach, but much more interesting than this is the public policy. There is a network of Barcelona creation factories, and there are 17 centers spread across several Barcelona neighborhoods. So this is how the municipality gets involved to create a hub of performing arts, music, and sounds research, visual arts initiatives. And it's for the first time when an industrial regeneration project includes also social housing, and you could see here some of the transformations. The second thematic cluster, unused and underused areas. Again, I want to underline that we want you to focus more on buildings when thinking of these thematic clusters. These buildings are predominantly private owned, but not necessarily used for former commercial, former office, malls, schools, etc., any kind of function, but are located in an unattractive context. They can be recovered, facilitating the matchmaking with companies, startups, or any other initiatives. Here, the further target would be the matchmaking between this vacant, this unused, underused building and some potential users or tenants or people that would appropriate the space. Das PACKHAUS, it's the first example. Paradox from Wien, Austria. It's the biggest startup hub in Wien. Paradox is an international think tank that initiated this project of reuse of vacant buildings in Wien. It managed to get this building with the support of the Education and Research Council of Wien that wanted to involve universities in this project. It is a building that it's thought that at every level could have a different function. It's focused on co-working, but not necessarily. It's an example of temporary uses. 85 companies coming from different fields in this building. And interesting is that it's not meant to be a homogeneous place, but a building where people could learn from one another. So this is why they have different functions at every level. SPAZIO 13, Creative Hub. Here, SPAZIO 13 was a former school. And we see here a reuse of a decommissioned public building where we have informal education, making, so crafts and labs, and a lot of functions like printing, carpentry, video production, and also a function of events and social spaces like co-working, private libraries, etc. It's a initiative of municipality. There was a contest of ideas for this project. And now from Kranj, Slovenia, a former shopping mall. And it's an example, a different example from the ones before of reuse approach. The concrete structure and facade were retained, and the interior was completely renovated for a library with conference rooms for crime citizens. So it's one of the also in the touristic brochures of Crunch to the places to visit. So it became kind of this project became also a symbol of the city. And lastly, the third thematic cluster, unused and underused areas as public spaces potential. This thematic cluster is focused on land. Many public areas that could be reconfigured and valorizing its new potential for a new city setting. This cluster will focus on participatory and community-oriented process. So the main target would be reactivation of public spaces as places for urban encounters and economic vitality, education and cultural service hubs. First example is Giardini LUZZATI, so from Italy. It is a special case because it has an archaeological site. An NGO was present since the 1970s. The place it's also rented from the municipality. And here coexist educational, entertainment activities, as well as neighborhood parties. We have here an example of revitalization of a space in a historical center. And this is the particularity of this example. So you have here also the map with different activities in the area of Giardini. The second example, so won the Aga Khan Award for Architecture, recognized for promoted integration of various religious and ethnic groups living in the area. It's a strip of land that remained unused after a railway line was dismantled. It's an example of experimental approach that led to a permanent use of space for community and touristic purposes. What is here interesting, you have here a multitude of a puzzle of different activities along this line, but also they are dedicated to different social ethnic groups. It's a park, but a totally new paradigm of parks. It's part of an urban improvement plan coordinated by the city of Copenhagen in partnership with a private philanthropic organization. The third example is Prinzessinengarten from Berlin, Germany. It's a former wasteland, an abandoned place. It's an example of temporary use approach that became like a catalyst in Berlin for other spaces like this. It led to a construction of a mobile community garden that can be moved anywhere where the municipality needs it. After 60 years of underutilization, in 2009, the nonprofit organization Nomadic Grün turned this wasteland in this organic social garden, and it will for sure replicate the model across Berlin. This kind of gardens are very appreciated actually at the community level and are very useful to be as a system approach in many housing neighborhoods. And lastly, LUCHTSINGEL Bridge in Rotterdam, another very popular example on the architectural side. This was a private initiative initially by architects, It was a project of real estate development that it wasn't realized until the end. And this is how the world's first crowdfunded public space project came to life. It's an incubator for young entrepreneurs. It has service functions like bars and rooftops. It has a community garden, events place, etc. It's a 400-meter long pedestrian bridge, and it is interesting how you can see it here with yellow, how it really goes through a building, across the railways, connecting to different urban tissues. Here you also have a picture of the community garden. It is a very good example of involving the community into the space. This was from my side. I also have to thank my colleague Emilia for helping me realize this presentation.